You're now listening to D&D Live on Demand. What up, world? Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Command, a D&D football podcast. Of course, it's your man DH, and we got D Mitty in the building. D Mitty, what up?
Man, feeling good, feeling great. How about you, my guy?
Hey, man, I'm doing amazing after a Week 6 victory in Chicago against the Bears. I'm feeling good, man. We got a lot to get to this week, man. We got a lot to get to. We got the Packers coming into town. As you see, I like cheese. You know what I'm saying?
We all love cheese.
Right. Got any cheese? Steve. Hey, man, but we got the Packers coming into town this week. And before we get into that, we will break down last week and all the action, the news, and the notes that happened. But before we do that, we got to remind you that if you're listening to this podcast, you are a supporter, and we greatly appreciate you. So do us a favor to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. And if you feel so inclined to leave us a 5-star review, you can get your 5 seconds of fame. That's it. That's all. Once again, we appreciate you for tuning in. Of course, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms because we're there. Twitter mostly because I need to get them followers up, baby. Got to get it up. But definitely make sure you hit us up and, hopefully we can entertain you for these next couple minutes out here in this podcast streets. You know what I'm saying? So let's get into it. D-Mitty, man, let's talk about last week's game. The Commanders won in, I guess you can't say convincing fashion, but it was a cold red for us last week. They went up to Chicago and beat the Bears. So D-Mitty, how'd you feel about that victory, man?
I knew it was going to happen. How it happened, I didn't see it happen. I knew, I felt it, bro, because starting off 2-3, and I mean 1-4, and dropping 3 games straight, you had to have a get back game, and that was a perfect get back game. And the defense continues to do what they always do. They don't allow as many points against certain teams or against teams that aren't scoring threats. It's just the offense. We got to get that offense clicking. But I feel good after the win. I felt like, they try something. They try to add some wrinkles to the offense that they may try to, continue to add on, to the coming weeks. But I feel good about it. And I got to ask you, man. I looked at the game and I thought about it during the ending of the game when that last drive with Chicago. How are you feeling about the game up until that last drive?
Well, I say this, man, that to go to Chicago and squeak out a 12-7 victory. Look, man, a lot of them ain't gonna be pretty, but all of them can go home. Okay, let's just say that. So, you gotta count the victories and get them how you can. The ugly ones count, so you gotta get the win. I mean, I'll say this, man. There definitely was times in that game where if you had a better quarterback against you in Justin Fields, we would have been out to dry. Our feelings would have got hurt because we'd been lost to the Bears. Justin Fields makes some of the plays that a good quarterback needs to make, and he'll get that pass because he's young. But with that being said, the defense played exceptionally well in certain spots, being able to get to the quarterback, being able to actually contain him a little bit enough to kind of make some plays. And then it's just more or less that Chicago Bears offense is kind of inept. They can't get it together. But
you seen that was blatant. That was obvious. It was they couldn't move the ball down the field unless it was a pass where they kind of that they got like maybe 2 or 3 yards open, and it was hard for them to get open on those DBs, which I credit Wild Goose out there balling. I credit Kendall Fuller and St. Juice how they're doing their thing. So they actually showed that my matchup prediction that our DBs should, they should win. So they did. They showed up.
I'll say this, man. The offensive line did better in the second half with running the football. B-Rob kind of got it going. He scored his first career touchdown last week. So shout out to B-Rob for getting the end zone. But the thing is, they kind of had to lean on the run game because Carson Wentz broke a finger on his throwing hand, which will drastically change how this week's quarterback position is going to go. And we'll get into that momentarily. But I will say this, the offensive line did do better with B-Rob running the ball. And you saw Gibby kind of got going later as well. So I think if they're able to get in a 1-2 punch rotation with those guys and be able to, kind of move the ball in a running fashion, I think that'll help out the new starting quarterback for the immediate future and Taylor Heineke next week, who will get the nod versus the Green Bay Packers. Of course, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm pretty sure you're up to date on what's going on with the Commanders.
Absolutely.
Carson Wentz broke a finger on his throwing hand. He had to have surgery. And he had surgery on, I believe, Monday.
Because he spent some time with a specialist in LA
yes,
to get a second, I guess, and third opinion on what should be the parameters going forward. Yep. And then he had the surgery.
and they declared that it'd be a minimum 4 to 6 weeks for
Right.
recovery. So you would have hoped that any nicks and bruises that the team would have suffered on Thursday, they would have this long kind of mini bye week to kind of heal. But sometimes
Right.
breaks can't heal in 10 days. So he will be out for the immediate future, which prompted the team to make an announcement that Taylor Heineke will be getting the starting nod, which came at a lot of debate over the past week about who should be the starting quarterback in the meantime, and when Carson comes back, what should be the situation. So we'll get into that in a little bit because I have an interesting perspective on that, and I'm pretty sure you do as well. But I'll wrap the previous week 6 game with this. We said it was Code Red, and they got the win.
Mm-hmm.
Now, albeit wasn't impressive, but it was a win that was much needed in a NFC that's kind of jumbled at the bottom. Okay,
right.
You have a lot of teams that are under 500 that are still in the mix. So every win counts, even if it's a 12-7 victory over the Bears. I mean, it looks like this would have been a thrilling baseball game, 12-7. But it played into the narrative that these Thursday night games are bad.
It did. Definitely did.
And I hated that for us, but I'm glad we got the dub, even though it was tough all the way to the last few minutes of the game, but we got the dub. So overall, man, I'm glad they were able to get it done. But they come up this week against the Green Bay Packers, who are in a similar situation as us.
Yep.
We projected us to be a whole lot better than what we were, and we're not. But they have Aaron Rodgers, and we don't. Well, they may have him this week, or they will have him this week. But D-Mitty, getting into the Packers game this week, let's start with the main story. Taylor Heineke is the starter for the Washington Commanders for the next few weeks. When the news broke that Carson broke his finger and Taylor would be named the starter, what was your initial thoughts to that announcement?
As soon as what's crazy is when I seen the replay of him hitting his hand against the defensive lineman Jones from Chicago, I immediately thought that's not going to end well. The adrenaline and taping it up is
and he kept shaking it out, bro. The way he was shaking it out, bro. I mean, I thought it was a rubber hand, bro. The way he was shaking it out.
And that's the crazy thing about it. I was like, yeah, he's gonna play through this because it's cold out there. His adrenaline is flowing. They probably gonna tape it up or what have you, make put a glove or something.
Shot at halftime, probably.
And he's gonna play through it. But going into the actual question, when I knew that he was going to be out and they named Taylor as the starter, I knew Taylor was going to be the starter. I knew that. I was like, okay, we're going to have that insertion of Taylor Heineke. And now the offense is going to change. And some don't want to see it that way, or some do see it that way when I say the change of the offense, because a lot of the pass plays are going to be condensed as far as the routes that's going to be ran and and what side of the field they're going to target. And the running game is going to have to step up now, because going into what you were saying with that 1-2 punch of Gibson and Robinson is going to have to help Heineke with maybe some play action or some jet motion in regards to opening up the Terrys and the Cam Sims and the Curtis Samuels of this offense to be able to get open. So the change that I see that's going to happen is Taylor is going to be able to bring some surge into this offense once he gets in, because Green Bay, they do have tape on him, but he did have a pretty nice game against them, though. He did have a pretty nice game against them. There was a couple of mistakes that he made, especially right in the red zone. I'm pretty sure you probably remember that play. But hopefully it starts off good. We can have our defense backing us up, and hopefully all three phases work together going into this game. But as far as the situation, I hope that it works out. So I kind of throw the question back at you. Do you see any changes in the offense? And if so, when you found out he was a starter, did you immediately think that this was another code red?
Well, I'll say this. Taylor will be leading the 23rd ranked Commanders offense against the 5th ranked Packers defense. So it will be a tough matchup. And to your point, they will have to adjust how this offense runs because, I mean, it's just a known fact that he does not have the arm ability that Carson Wentz has, be able to stretch the field. However, I think they will lead on the run game. They'll be able to get their run game going. They may work some underneath things, some short stuff. Expect to see a lot of screens this week, in my opinion. Some underneath things and some kind of quick game to get the ball out of his hands. Also, you might see some moving pocket situations. I think that'll be a benefit, and they'll change the offense in that manner. When the news came out that he would be the starter, I wasn't surprised that he was named as the starter because I kind of been on this kick with Sam anyway. Y'all know, I mean, Carolina born and bred, you know what I'm saying? So, represent it, you know what I'm saying? We didn't even do that on purpose, y'all. We definitely just pulled up with the Tar Heel colors, man. Represent. Great day to be a Tar Heel, man. But I've kind of been on the same boat with Sam, right? I don't want him to play. I want him to hold out as long as possible and not have to play. Because I firmly believe that he is our quarterback of the future. And I feel as though once he's in, it's it. Like once he's in, you can't go back to Carson. Okay. I feel like especially if it's not an emergency situation, like if God forbid something happened to Taylor and then Sam has to go in, you can go back to Carson when he becomes healthy again. But if it's a coach's decision and Taylor's out and he like, I'm gonna go see with Sam, then that's it. It's Sam all the way through. So that's kind of how I feel about that. But Taylor being named the starter, I mean, I kind of expected it. I just know it's gonna be a different look ball club, and I'm just really hoping that they're able to sustain and really do what they can do well to try to find a way to get some wins because they will need some wins in this stretch. You get a limping Green Bay team without Randall Cobb and limited in practice all week was Aaron Rodgers. So you might be able to sneak one at home. But you have to play good football. And I don't know if the team is equipped to play the type of winning football that you need. Because if you look at it, I mean, we've said this multiple times on the show. It wasn't Carson's fault that the team has played bad. It's been the offensive line, right?
Absolutely.
So if they're able to get to the run game and they're able to do some quick things, it's gonna make Taylor look good. It's gonna make the team play better, and I'm not opposed to that. But more or less, Carson has been getting a lot of criticism this week for his abilities or lack thereof, and people just believing that he hasn't done anything. And that's
Right.
the question where people were discussing, well, what happens once he becomes healthy? You know, I think I would like to kick that around before we get back to this game. So, D-Mitty, let's fast forward down the line 4 weeks, right? Let's say Taylor Heineke has played his behind off and he's 4-0 after a 4-game stretch. Carson is healthy and available. This offense, let's just say the offense is not necessarily clicking, but we're winning. Let's say we win a couple games like the Bears game where we're winning, but it doesn't look all that, but we're winning. What do you do at that point when Carson is available and healthy?
You really have to let that hot hand cook. I know that you brought in a Carson Wentz to be what some people say bridge quarterback, or some people may say to be, your quarterback for now, however you want to put it. But if you have a Taylor Heineke led offense that beats Green Bay, beats the Colts, then goes to Monday night and potentially wins, or if shows the offense can move against Philadelphia. And I believe that next game after that is Minnesota. Okay, Minnesota. Okay, so you have to keep rolling. You have to keep rolling with Taylor because you're looking at the 4 weeks, and that's going to be week 4. That's before Carson's injury is the Minnesota game. So how he comes out of that Minnesota game is going to let you know whether or not they're going to Carson. Now, my Ron and company answer, my Ron and the Marty answer is going to be they're going to go back with Carson because he's the guy and that's who they want.
So here's my thing. In order for Taylor Heineke to take the reins, this offense has to look ridiculous. Like he has to go out there and throw for 3 touchdowns and like 300 yards.
Average 20 plus points.
Yeah, and they got to be like beating people in order for him to stay the guy. And they could go 4-0, and once he's healthy, they're going to be like, all right, we back to Carson. You know what I'm saying? I think more or less Ron has let the fans and the media know that Carson Wentz is their guy, and I think that's kind of why he was so pissed at that post game press conference, because I mean he knew I think that Carson's hand was jacked up. So I mean you can even see it right here.
You know, they've played their asses off. They played their asses off for everybody. They come out and they show up. They work hard. All right, they don't complain. Okay, they hear all this stuff and they got to deal with it. I get that. I respect them for that because they're resilient. They come back. Everybody keeps wanting to say, I didn't want anything to do with Carson. Well, I'm the guy that pulled out the sheets of paper, that looked at the analytics, that watched the tape in the freaking when we were in Indianapolis. Okay, and that's what pisses me off because the young man doesn't deserve to have that all the time. I'm sorry, I'm done.
But you see how pissed off he was and how agitated he was. And I think that's because he knew that Carson was hurt and played the rest of the game with a broke finger and, you know, catches so much heat. So I think Ron has hitched his proverbial wagon to Carson, even though Ron has a little more leash on his tenure here with the squad because of his status. But he's hitched it kind of to Carson. And I'm actually not mad at it.
That's a conversation for another day with that Ron take. I mean,
yeah.
Is the leash long?
I mean, his title would say that other than head coach. Like, I mean, he running the whole front office.
Head of football operations, yeah.
A hell of a job to have, too, by the way.
But sticking to the conversation of who should they go back to, and I just went through the schedule. So I mistakenly said that we played Philly before Minnesota. So it's actually Green Bay, Indianapolis, then Minnesota Monday night, and then Philly. So after that Philly game, you're going to Houston. Now that quarter of the schedule, if Taylor's if for the 5th, putting up 20 plus points in those games, you know, I feel like they may stick with him because going into Houston and Taylor's 2-2 with Minnesota, you know, Green Bay, Indianapolis, and Philly, they just might let him rock for that Houston game, and then you have Atlanta, New York, and a bye, which I think that might be the time you bring in Carson. I'm basing it off of the Ron and company theory because once again, that's their guy. You know, like you say, he was in Ron's take that he had in that presser where he was. I read the effing, you know, like I get it, Ron. That's your guy. My bad, but I think that's what's going to happen. That November 20th game against Houston is when you're going to see Taylor's last game, and then possibly going to Wentz week 12 against Atlanta, because that's Atlanta, New York, bye, New York, and then you got San Fran and Cleveland coming out of the bye.
So
after New York,
I think Ron is definitely going back to Carson. So are we both in agreement that we don't want to see Sam Howell this year? Because hold on, and before you answer that, I want to remind you guys that listen, you already know that the Commanders need to beat Green Bay this week. Okay, you've heard it a trillion times. We're gonna talk about this. Okay, we're gonna let the elephant in the room. We're gonna talk about it because that's what's going on at the top. We're gonna talk about that. So we don't care about the game breakdown. They need to beat the Packers. Point blank and period. I like cheese. All right, we need to beat the Packers. So let's continue on with this conversation about this quarterback. So are we both in agreement that we do not want to see Sam Howell this year?
I don't want to see him as long as Taylor and Carson
Ain't no
do their job.
D-Mitty, ain't no caveats, bro.
No caveats. All right, no caveats. I want to see Sam. I'm gonna say it. I'm sorry. I want to see Sam. Sam, UNC alone. I want to see Sam because I use football and sports to relate to life sometimes, and vice versa. What's the best experience? I mean, what's the best teacher? Excuse me, is experience.
Yeah.
We keep saying, "Oh, he's a fifth round pick. You don't throw him in there." So how else will he learn the speed of the game? By practicing the same guys that he's going into battle with every week? No, against new talent, against putting them in the fire against new talent and new schemes and stuff that he may not see from a certain player. So I would much rather see Sam. My opinion, I would much rather see Sam than Taylor right now. And the reason why I say that is because we're not really fighting for playoff position. We're fighting to stay in the thick of things. Mm-hmm. And when I say the thick of things, meaning to actually be competitive. And I feel like Sam may give you something that's more competitive than Carson with pushing the ball down the field.
All right, so here's the thing. I truly believe that once Sam gets in, he's going to wow cats, and you can't go back to anybody else because I think he's going to be the quarterback of the future. Now, here's the thing. The team has to determine when they want to make this future quarterback decision because you're going to have to make this decision at some point or another so you'll know what's going on in the offseason. And we've mentioned this all week, kind of just in Twitter spaces and other places where we kind of talked about, hey, sooner or later, you have to solidify this position. And you can't, in the perfect world, you would like to allow Carson to play all year. But if towards the end of the season, if we're out of the mix, you have to let Sam Howell cook to determine if you're drafting a top quarterback next year, or if you're right back in the mix trying to get a veteran, or if you're gonna let Sam compete and try to go for the one spot. You have to kind of determine that. Mm-hmm. And I think as a coaching staff, you kind of have to figure out when are you going to do that and have that conversation. Now, I think that's why they're not putting in Sam right now, because they feel like they have a chance. Mm-hmm. Even with the division being the way that it is, they feel like they have a chance, and they feel like telling the offense X, Y, Z. But if you ask some fans, they're not even sold that Sam could be the guy going forward because they're just looking at where he was drafted.
Draft stock, size, and just what his last year at UNC looked like. And I get it. And I most definitely understand that.
A good year, which was still a great year as compared to like other guys. Like, it was a good season. Mm-hmm. But we all know why his season wasn't as good as it was. But I mean, he still had a great season, a good enough season to where Josh Downs was mentioned as an honorable mention for the Biletnikoff. So he played pretty well. If he was able to get a guy in the mix for some awards, so I mean, he played pretty well. But I mean, the team has to see what they have in him, and he has to get substantial time for you to be like, all right, this is what we're going to do in the offseason. Go ahead.
Thank you. But I look at it like this as well. Let's fast forward, and the team is 4-10, or 5-9, or whatever.
Out of the mix. Mathematically out of it.
All three quarterbacks are healthy. Do you then continue to ride with Carson when he's back, or do you let Sam play? And let me add I'm going to add a caveat to this question. And do you let Sam play and let him ride into next year, or do you just let Sam play this year and then go back to Carson next year? Because that's I know that's a very open-ended question, but when you really look at it, why let the young boy rock at the end of the year, but then still go back to Carson next year?
I believe just follow me here, and I'm probably have to clip this out and put this out there because I truly believe this. I believe that Ron and company have no intentions on getting another quarterback until Carson's contract is up. I have,
I agree.
I have, I don't know why, but and let me tell you something. If they don't get if the quarterback play is bad this year and they don't get a quarterback in the offseason, they might burn the building down, dog. Knock on wood. But I have the belief that Ron feels like Carson is going to be the quarterback this year and next year.
Mm-hmm.
Sam may get elevated from 3 to 2. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like they are going to truly let Carson be a bridge quarterback. And I feel like they really do like Sam Howell, bro. They really do. I mean,
Yeah.
they have to like him if they took Diami last year because that's when the scouting initially started. I've read that they saw in scouting Diami, they saw a lot of Sam Howell. So to get him in the 5th round, they really like it. I think he's the quarterback of the future, and I think Carson is a 2-year bridge. And people don't want to admit that because the team hasn't played well, but Carson is a 2-year bridge. And then as far as starting quarterbacks, I mean, yeah, he's making 28, but for starting quarterbacks, that's almost like a steal, bro. Because like, I mean, other guys are making ridiculous type of money. Like, would you rather be paying Kirk Cousins?
So this is the
They
point.
501, but they not like he not world beaters.
So this is the point that I was making with what you just said. You have a 5th round quarterback whose extension, if he starts at year 2 or 3 of his contract, won't be as high, especially when you have a cap number that goes up. You are in a good position with your 5th round draft pick quarterback. Now, I don't see them going after another quarterback either. You know, Lord willing that, you know, Carson stays healthy, what have you. You move Sam up to 2, you know, let Heineke go or whatever and get a younger quarterback that's like an undrafted guy, whatever the case may be. But I feel like the only way, just like you said, they go after another quarterback is if, like, knock on wood, Alex Smith type injury or another injury happens to Carson and they have to play Sam and Sam shows that he's not the guy. That's the only way you go after another quarter, which I don't see happening because everybody wanting to go to CJ Stroud now that everybody's on the Hendon Hooker train because I've seen that was heavily tweeted a lot, you know, as far as getting a quarterback. But
And
I
even
say this.
that's not even a guarantee.
Mm-mm,
What if they flop
mm-mm.
like Josh Rosen? Josh Rosen played on 6 teams since he got drafted.
Man, that is so crazy about his career, bro. I did not see that happening for him.
You know, like what if it's a situation like that? And we don't know. My thing is you just need to be advantageous on figuring out if Sam is the guy because I, in my heart of hearts, as a fan and as somebody who's seen him up close and has a real affinity for him, I believe that he can do it. However, we have
Absolutely.
to see it on the field to determine if he legitimately can do it. And the team has to see that sooner or later, especially if they're going to be out of the mix. And right now, they're not out of the mix all the way. So I feel like they're going to ride with Taylor Heineke until Carson is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
They go back to him because Ron has hitched his wagon to Carson Wentz. That is a Ron
Hitched.
era selection. So he is going to allow Carson. He's going to give, and I really hate to use this expression. Um, he's gonna give him enough rope to hang himself. Like,
Let's be honest. Let's just be honest.
and I really hate that term. Like, I don't like that analogy, but if you or anyone you know is having any suicide, like here's the number. I'll put it up. Like seriously, like because
Yes,
I don't like to play with that analogy, but I'm gonna put it up just
it's
for you.
real.
You know, I
And
put it
mental health is real out here, brother.
facts. So I know we make light, but we definitely keep it 100, man, with that. But he's gonna give him a lot of opportunities to fail. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
I think he has it. I think he has until he comes back. And I'm truly hoping that the team plays well. Um, and I'm not gonna say that I don't know, man. I just don't want Carson to get a raw deal. Like Taylor Heineke come out and they 4-0, and you know, they're gonna be killing Carson. They're gonna be like, nah, fam, like, you know, why you going back in? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like, I don't know, man. I just want Carson. I want Carson to succeed because he's taking a lot of heat He's taking a
I do too,
lot of
man.
bad press. I just really want him to succeed, and I hate the fact that he's getting this heat. I hate the fact that he can't stay healthy right now with the hand. And it was a freak accident. It just happens. Like, you're a tall guy throwing, D lineman come right there, pop, hit the hand on the head. I mean, it sucks, but it's just a part of the game. I just really hope that he can rebound from it and kind of still be in the mix when he comes back, because I believe he does give his offense right now the best chance to win. He has a huge arm. You're gonna miss that bomb to Diami, them bombs that we've thrown this year. You're not gonna have that in the next couple of weeks, especially not a flat-footed throw from
I hate to see it that way, man. I hate to see it that way because is it possible that they can scheme it up a certain way by running like a bootleg and changing
I'm glad
changing his launch point, maybe.
That I'm glad you said, because that's exactly what I was thinking. You're not gonna get a flat-footed bomb out of the pocket from Taylor Heineke. You may get a rollout, but he can kind of run into it and throw it, get some air under it. You may get some stuff like that. But as far as the flat, and if it works, I don't care. But as far as a flat-footed bomb from the pocket, no, indeed, not from him. Now you'll get that from Sam if he gets in, because Sam can heave that thing. But you're not gonna get that from Taylor. And the thing is, the offense can, and the part is gonna blow me. If Scott Turner is able to turn the offense into something usable that works well for Taylor, it's gonna piss me off, because that means you have not allowed it to work well for Carson. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm afraid of too. That's another conversation that's been out there in Twitter and social media, where because you have a guy that already knows the offense, but then there's the guy that you actually brought in to move the offense. If he looks totally different in a worse way than the guy that was your second, then there's a problem. That's going to raise a question for the coordinator too, because how were you scheming with this quarterback? What was the relationship between you and this quarterback with what he should see and what he does see? Because now we're questioning you, Scott, because this offense is on your back.
And I don't want any of us to fail, right? I want us to succeed, but I want some stuff to be exposed, if that makes sense. I want some stuff to be exposed to where we really question, like, let's say Taylor wins the first 2 games, and the offense looks different. And I want to be like, bruh, Scott Turner, you couldn't figure out how to do this with the first 6 games with Carson, when you saw the offense wasn't working right and you saw that the O-line wasn't blocking correctly. You couldn't figure it out in those 6 games, but in 2 games, you got Taylor Heineke out here looking like John Elway. Like, help me. So I kind of want him to be exposed to kind of figure it out. Like, oh, you can scheme it now, but you couldn't scheme it before. And that goes back into the narrative that I want Carson to be successful. And I feel like the coaching has not been good enough for him to succeed.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I'm most definitely of the mindset that I want to see Carson succeed. I want to see Carson at least take these next 2 years to allow Sam to really learn the playbook. And if he has the talent and he stays healthy, and he's going to learn the playbook in year 3. You got your 5th-year quarterback on his third year starting and knowing the offense, and I want that versus having to push him into the fold because of the inept offense that you have. You know what I'm saying? Like I much rather see him take his time. I do.
And D-Mitty, it's kind of wild to see that. And you know what? I'm feeling it, man. I'm feeling it. I think it's time to get wild. D-Mitty, you ready to get wild? Let's get wild.
Boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our favorite segment of the week. Let's get wild. All right, listen, we are back with another segment of Let's Get Wild. This is where we give our wild predictions and we go off about what's going to happen in this Week 7 matchup against the Green Bay Packers and the Washington Commanders. So, D-Mitty, I'm going to pass the baton to you. Give me your Let's Get Wild moment for this week.
Yes, let's get wild. Hey, Taylor, Heiner, let's come out here, boy. Let's throw some touchdowns. I need 2 touchdowns from you, Taylor. I need 2 deep bombs. And I need one of them to my boy Cam Sims, for real, boy. Hey, y'all got that connection. I want to see it on the field. Hey, Taylor, hey, Arthur, hey, yo, back. Let's scheme it up, boy. We need this win. Woo!
I'm about to go off. You know why I'm about to go off?
Take it up, buddy.
I'm about to go off because let me tell you what. 2 weeks ago, exactly 2 weeks ago, number 2 of the Washington Commanders and formerly of the UNC Tar Heels went out and balled. He played football like you never thought he would play before. 2 touchdowns, 2 catches, and I think he's going to do it again. If he did it before, he can do it again. Throw the ball to freaking De'Ami Brown for 2 touchdowns this week. Throw him the ball. He's going to score twice. He's going to score twice. I don't know how he's going to do it because it's not going to be a bomb. It's going to be some underneath stuff. He might have 6 targets and 2 TDs. And by the way, give the ball to Scarance Terrence. Again. Give him the freaking ball. We have to bring it back. Let's woosah. On the count of 3, let's woosah. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. Now let it go.
And we're back.
That was our Let's Get Wild segment. Let's hope that the team plays wild this week and they get a W to go to 3-4. Because guess what? We need it. And if you haven't heard, I like cheese. I want to see those Packers get beat. I want to continue to lead into the narrative that Aaron Rodgers is washed. Okay. And the Green Bay Packers have not done nothing to help him out. Okay. Let's not let them get on the road this week. Let's keep them down and out. And I believe that we can beat them. Every team can get beat. That's why you show up. So let's hope that the Commanders go out there, do what they need to do to get a victory and go to 3-4. So D-Mitty, before we get out of here, man, any final thoughts on the upcoming Week 7 matchup against the Green Bay Packers?
Man, I'm looking at this injury report with Aaron Rodgers not having his guy that he went to bat for, Randall Cobb in the lineup. The young boy Christian Watson who can take the top off the defense. He's going to be with, I think, this Alan Lazard. And hey, look, I say all that to say, hey, DBs, I'm always throwing y'all out there for the matchup, man. Kendall Fuller, St. Juice, I need you. I need you to come out here and do your thing. Hey, Bobby McCain, where you at, player? Let's do it.
Hey, man, D-Mitty, listen, bro. The Commanders have to put everything together and play the best game possible. And you hope that best game that they can play comes out with a W. They won 12-7 against Chicago. You're hoping this week that they can win, just one more point than the Green Bay Packers. I don't even care how they get it done because at this point, wins are at a premium. You have to get W's. You have to get more W's than L's and to avoid getting pushed further back in the back of the pack.
I'll take a baseball game, a field goal and a safety. Let them get the safety, we get the field goal. I'll take a 3-2 win, dog. I'll take a playoff baseball game win. Hey.
3-2 in the bottom of the 7th. The Commanders up to the plate. Swing and a miss. Taylor Heineke, the 2-2 pitch. Like,
hey, yo.
And you can see Ron Rivera's on the top step. He's calling in a sub. Is that Sam Howell coming from the bullpen? Sam Howell coming in from the bullpen.
Hey, man, shout out.
Save the game for the Commanders.
Shout out to the legendary Vince Scully, man.
Hey, bro, hold on. Let me see Vince Scully. And the pitch. And we were in Chavez Ravine, and I saw him do. Hey, side note before we get out of here, dog, I love baseball. I just love how baseball commentators, bro,
Me too, man.
literally, like, bro, they can say the Green Bay Packers up to the mound, and the 1-1 pitch, and a miss. Taylor Heineke, the standout at Old Dominion University, went for a career 300 batting average. D-Mitty, what did you think about that? They'd be like, yeah,
hey, bro.
We saw him play kind of well. He did this, he did that. And then look in the middle of the conversation, the curveball outside.
And he takes it center field.
Hey, man, we're getting out of here. Let's hope we come back with a dub, bro. We need a dub. Oh, absolutely. Side note, I'll say this. I am 1-0. Or excuse me, let me see, what is it? I can't even say it. But I did not gritty before the game last week, and we won. So I'm gonna do
We got it. Hey, no gritty this week.
I'm not gonna gritty this week. I'm not gonna gritty this week. And you see it, look at it. It's right here. You see it. That thing's slick, bro.
Hey,
bro.
I gotta give you the one we had the cup, we had the drink in your hand. Hey, that one was smooth because the head movement. Hey, I give you a solid 4.75.
I believe the young folks call it my drink and my two-step. It's like, man, we gone, man. Let's hope the Commanders come back with a win, man. You have been listening to Breaking Command, a DND football podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with a friend. And also support the boys. Support the boys. Let's take command.
Get that 5-star review.
Yeah, we need that too, please. I'd greatly enjoy a 5-star review and the pitch.
This guy, man. This guy.
Bye, man. Hey, we'll catch y'all next episode of the D&D Football Podcast, Breaking Command. Peace. Of course, as soon as I hit record, the mic jank come on. Dang. It's gonna be a live booth. Bro, as soon as I touch the mic, it does say boo-boo. Yeah, I can't find the whole.
Gotta take your time with it.
I gotta grease it up. Goddamn. Gotta set that edge. Let me stop. All right. All right, here we go. 3, 2.